Can somebody explain to me why every time I make an AMD video, it's always the Nvidia bros, well, the 4090 bros that show up to defend Nvidia's honor? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I put out an AMD video, and the Nvidia bros always show up to like defend Nvidia. And I know I say some weird things. I've been told that many of times that I say some stuff that's not in line with what all the other YouTube PC gamer channels say. And you know what? Like I'm never gonna conform. Seriously, I'm never gonna conform to whatever those guys say. It to me it just doesn't make sense. And one of the things is when they review these cards, they're always like, well, this one's like 8% faster, or that one's like 15% faster, or something like that. And in my brain, the way my brain works is like, okay, so if I buy the 4080, I get 100 frames, but if I buy the 7900 XTX, I get 85 frames for way less money. You see where I'm going with that? Like when they say percentage, and you're like thinking, you're like, well, if the game's only getting like 32 frames a second on the Nvidia card, and it's like 6% faster than the AMD card, that's like literally like 1 or 2 frames. Like it's 1 or 2 frames faster. So I don't get the whole I don't get the whole thing of why people would come to my channel and try to like I don't know, try to make me feel like I'm stupid or something for liking AMD. That doesn't make any sense to me. And like I get the whole thing with Nvidia. Like there's lots of marketing out there for Nvidia. There's lots of marketing out there. There's lots of freaking, like peer pressure when it comes to when it comes to like switching over to AMD and stuff. I get that. There's a lot of people out there on the Nvidia brand that would probably switch. And to further drive this point home, about the 30 series that I came from, that I bought into Nvidia at, was in the 30 series. If you go to Facebook Marketplace or pretty much anywhere, there are so many 30 series cards on there for sale right now. And why? Because they were crap and everybody wants to upgrade. Everybody wants a new card. Nobody wants to be stuck with a 30 series GPU. They all either want to switch to AMD, but they have anxiety like I did, or they want the newest, greatest Nvidia card to make them feel better about their purchase. It's weird, man. Like I saw this other content creator. His name is like Frame Chasers or whatever, and he said something about it's only the AMD guys or something. Like I saw him over here on let me see. I'll pull up the exact quote so that if he ever watches this and he can come back at me or whatever for like talking about him or something. And maybe I'll even say what I said on there. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. What the freak? Yeah, I've watched a couple of this guy's videos, and he just always seems to just straight bash AMD like it's nothing. So it's like for him to say this right here, you only see AMD buyers defending their purchases online, never Intel or Nvidia buyers. Let that sink in. Okay, this dude has a PC channel literally every day talking about how terrible AMD is while propping up Nvidia and Intel. Isn't that like literally the definition of defending their purchase and creating like an echo chamber, like what I do with AMD, like creating like an echo chamber for other people, for other weak-minded individuals to come in and be like, yeah, man, we got Nvidia, we got the best. That's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing, and then trying to project that onto AMD people who are pretty happy with their purchases, man. And I've bought 2 of these AMD cards now. I've seen a lot of negativity about the 7800 XT. People talking about like drivers crashing and just all kinds of stuff over on Reddit and stuff. So I actively made the choice. I was like, you know what, man? I was gonna buy like 4070 Ti, but then I thought, you know what, man, everybody's out here talking about that. Why don't I just buy that card? Why don't I test that out, see how that card runs, and lo and behold, man, I'm not having any problems with this AMD 7800 XT. I think it's been a very smooth experience, and in fact, I think it's actually a pretty dang good card for the CPU I have. I have the 5900X, and I feel like it's actually really well optimized for the build that I have, especially at 1440p. I feel like I'm getting high refresh rate. I'm getting, be able to utilize max max quality settings. It just feels good. Like, it feels pretty dang stable when I'm playing my games. Like, I don't sit here, like, I seriously do not sit here and think, oh man, if I just had an Nvidia card, I would have better ray tracing and I could see path tracing. In my experience with PC gaming so far today, after about 2.5 years of actually playing on PC, and never before had I ever done that, it had always been consoles, I can tell you that ray tracing it looks cool. It does. I mean, it looks good on certain games, but then on some games, like, you can barely notice that there's ray tracing. Like, you can barely notice that there's ray tracing. I was looking at Alan Wake 2 and I'm like, wow, this game just looks incredible without it. And I guess you got, like, everybody out there just like, oh yeah, you gotta have this and that and frame gen, and I'm like, dude, if you guys think about this, your 4090 gets 32 frames a second without using frame gen or DLSS. 32 frames a second. Oh, but you don't understand. Path tracing is really, really demanding. Well, yeah, it is. So how many generations do you have to get to with an Nvidia 90 series card before you can actually get, your 4K 60? How many generations do you have to get to before their card will actually give you 4K 60 for path tracing at the price that you're paying for that Nvidia graphics card? I mean, if it's me, my thinking is, okay, this technology is clearly not usable just yet at a frame rate that you would want to be able to actually enjoy this. So why would I take, like 30, 40, 50, 60 frames when I can just turn it off and get over 100 frames a second on my 7900 XT, or up to 80 frames, 90 frames with my 7800 XT at 1440p or 4K or whatever? Why would I enable that just so that I could play it at a lesser experience? That just doesn't make any sense to me. And for the most part, like, when I'm playing my games, I like to have a little bit higher frame rate, and I like the image quality to still look good. And that's basically what I'm getting with the AMD platform. I can utilize ray tracing on a lot of stuff, but I choose not to, just because of the fact that I would much rather have the higher frame rate than deal with that. But then there's another thing. And we're going to talk about this. When these freaking other YouTube channels out there, when these tech tubers or whatever the freak they're called, when they review these cards, they're always quick to talk about, like, oh yeah, well, it's like the AMD card's beating it by, like, like 5-8% or whatever, like the, when their runs. But then they're like, well, but as soon as you turn on ray tracing, then it's skewed in the other direction. And they failed to mention that, like, yeah, I mean, obviously your Nvidia card's a little bit better at ray tracing, but you're still gonna have to use DLSS and frame generation and all that stuff to play the game. But then they never ever say, oh well, they never talk about the gains you get when you utilize FSR. Like, in their minds, it's like, oh yeah, FSR is just garbage, so they never even talk about that. And I kind of feel like that's disingenuous. I really do, because in the games that I've utilized FSR at 4K, it looks fine. I'm happy with that image quality. It looks good. It gets the job done. It makes me feel like I'm actually playing 4K. And I mean, I've come from console over to PC, and I still play my consoles. I still play my Xbox probably the most. I play the Xbox and then the PC and then like the PS5 or something. But when I look at that and I look at the image quality, of these games, like using FSR2 and like the quality or even balanced, I'm thinking, I'm like, what are these guys even talking about? Like, how can they say that this looks terrible or this isn't even an option? And they sit here and bang on and bang on and bang on about DLSS. And it's like, dang, dude, do these guys like not even care that they will prop up Nvidia? And it doesn't matter. And it does. It gives gamers a lot of anxiety because they're like, man, I just want the best. I just want the best. When I guarantee it, man, like a gamer like myself, because I'm a real gamer, dude. I'm not just sitting here doing like little stupid benchmarks and trying to sell you Nvidia graphics cards and all of that stuff. No, I'm an actual gamer. The games come first. So when I'm sitting here telling you, man, like, look, bro, I actually play these games. I invest the time. I invest the money to buy these games, and then I play through them, and then I make, your content and stuff on them. When I can sit here and tell you that, like, look, man, I think that there's a significant portion of gamers that are out there right now that would have been way happier with an AMD card instead of feeling anxiety like they have right now, playing around with their Nvidia card that's barely getting it done, and they're feeling like, oh man, I spent $500 for this 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte and I can only play at 1080p or something, or some other limitation that's causing them to not be able to fully enjoy their experience, but they're still feeling like, yeah, man, I got a good card. I got an Nvidia card. There are so many 30 series cards on sale right now on the used market through Facebook Marketplace because everybody knows that generation was absolute garbage. So they all got out. And they're trying to get out as quick as they can. And they're all trying to make their money back. And these people are still even trying to charge you like $580 for a 3080. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that card, yeah, that's not worth. You could literally go buy a 7800 XT for less than that and have a way better experience than that 3080. I do not recommend buying any of them 3080s unless you can get it for like $200. If you could pay like $200 for it and you're only going to play at like 1080p, maybe a little bit of 1440p and some 4K at like with old games, fine, by all means. But if you're buying a card because you want to play new next-gen games, do not buy a 30 series card. It is not worth your money. There's way better AMD options. You could get a 6800 XT. You can get a 7800 XT. You can get a freaking 7900 XT. And still save money and be able to game a lot longer than you are on any of them 30 series cards. That's just madness. Absolute madness. That people will... that people will put brand loyalty in front of them actually being able to have an experience gaming that's fun, that feels good. I like AMD. I'm like, well, once I popped that thing in there and I started playing around with it and I started getting into the software and playing with the experience, I like AMD. I think it's cool. I really do. Now, I'm not saying that Nvidia is bad. Like, I need you to understand that. Like, I don't hate Nvidia and I don't think it's bad, but I just don't feel like their products are a good fit for me. I prefer, I prefer that, like, I don't know. I guess I prefer the thing that everybody else, I don't know. Like, I could be like a mad raving PlayStation fanboy and probably dragging a lot of people into the channel. I could be a mad raving Nvidia fanboy and bring in a whole bunch of people to the channel. But you know what, man? I like AMD. I like Xbox. That's just who I am. That's what I like to play. I like that ecosystem. I like the way I feel. When I'm using those products and stuff, I like it. I think it's cool. I've had nothing but success and nothing but a good experience with the AMD platform so far. I cannot say the same for Nvidia. I just kind of felt like, I don't know, man. Like, a lot of that was kind of confusing and stuff. And I know there's lots of settings that I could have made everything better, and I could have got 10 years out of my 3080 GPU. But if we could have got 30 years out of the 3080 GPU, why are there so many of them on sale right now for like people like trying to get out from under that card? Because obviously it wasn't a good card. So quit coming to here and telling me that 3080 is like blah, blah, blah. Because I don't care. You sold yours. I sold mine. Everybody else is trying to sell theirs. Clearly, it wasn't a good freaking card, let alone a good investment. Nvidia dropped those things as quick as they could when the next cards came out. They gave them all the YouTubers, and they're like, just talk about DLSS 3.5, just talk about ray reconstruction and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, like we get it. Like the tech is pretty cool. The AI is pretty good. It does what it's supposed to do. It does a good job. But like, where's the meat and potatoes? Like, why are you leaving the 30 series guys behind? Oh well, they'll figure it out. They should just not be poor and buy the new one. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. I don't get it with Nvidia bros. I don't get it with the PlayStation bros. Like, I don't get it, man. These guys are like rabid crazy, man. I guarantee it. If Nvidia was not number one anymore, and neither was PlayStation, those guys would jump ship faster than anybody on the planet. They would jump ship. Very cool. It's just not cool to have an AMD GPU. But that's okay. You don't need to be cool to enjoy your video games. You really don't. I mean, think about it, bro. Think about it. Like think about this for a minute, man. Most of the people that I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. Like it's absolutely hilarious the way that these Nvidia people will try to treat, you know, AMD content creators, the way that other, you know, content creators treat AMD. Like seriously, do they really deserve that? Does AMD really deserve all the hate that it gets, or is it just made up, you know, is it just people trying to cope with their purchases? Because I know there's a whole lot of people on Facebook Marketplace right now trying to cope with their bad decision for buying a 30 series card. I'm glad I got out from under mine pretty quick. I got half of what I paid for it. I felt good about that. I felt like that was a good deal. So I was happy with that. I was happy to walk away from that and just get some of my money back and move forward. But yeah, man. As for day 6 for the AMD 7800 XT, I do think that this card is absolutely incredible, man. It just feels good. It feels right. I'm not having any issues. I'm not having any problems. I'm able to play and enjoy the video games. I'm still making a bunch of other content for you guys with this card. It's been good. It's been good. I can use my editing software. I can do everything I need to do with this card, and it just works, man. It literally just works. So, all right, my friends, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.